Hello and welcome back to Sewpedia. In today's tutorial, I will be showing you how to cut this gorgeous dress. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you can do that right now. Hit the subscribe button, like this video and share to your friends. You can also turn on your notification bell to get instant updates whenever I post tutorials. I'm going to start by taking down my shoulder measurement, but before that I'm going to label this part center front, that is CF. Then I will proceed to marking down my shoulder measurement, which is 14 inches divided by 2, that gives 7. From the parts where I've marked, I'm going to come down by 1 inch there. Then I'm going to mark down my armhole depth, which is 7.5 inches. From this part, I'm going to take my shoulder measurement 7 inches so that I can get a straight line when I connect these points together. Next, I'll go to the center front and I'm going to take down my neckline measurement. After that, I'm just going to connect the points together using my curved ruler. Next, I'm going to connect the shoulder slope to the neckline using a straight line. Thereafter, I'm going to measure this part from the tip of the paper to where my armhole depth line ends, and that gives 8.5. I'll mark it at the under end, which is the center front paper, and I'm just going to rule a straight line like this. So this straight line is the chest line. Then I'll go to the armhole depth line and I'm going to divide that line by 2. Then I'll mark the midpoint of the line and go inward by 0.5. On this chest line, I'm going to take down the quarter measurement of my bust circumference. That is bust circumference divided by 4. Then from the points that I've marked for my bust circumference, I'm going to place my curved ruler like this to touch that point, the 0.5 marking and my shoulder slope, so that I can be able to draw my armhole curve. Next, I'm going to measure from the tip of this paper. I'm going to mark down my bust point, which is 10 inches. I will mark the under bust point. I'll mark the waistline. Then I'll mark the blouse length. I'll come to this side of the paper and I'm going to repeat the same measurements here. This is to enable me rule out a straight line. After marking down all these measurements, I'm going to connect the points together using a straight ruler. After connecting the points together, I'm going to label these lines. The first one is the chest line, the next one is the bust point, followed by the under bust point, next is the waistline, then we have the blouse length and the hip line. Next, I'm going to mark down my bust band measurement, which is your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So that is what I'm marking down now. After marking, I'm going to connect the points using a straight line. Next, I'll go to the under bust line and I'm going to mark down 1 inch on this side of the line and 1 inch on the other side. So together, I'm going to take out 2 inches underneath the bust. Then from the bust point, I'm just going to use my curved ruler to connect this way. That's from the 1 inch up to my bust point. After this, I'm going to extend my bust band line by 3 inches. After marking down 3 inches, I will use my ruler to extend the line upward. Now for my over bust tightening, I'm going to take 0.5 inch here, and at the other side of the line, I'll mark 0.5 inch as well. After marking, I will use my curved ruler to connect downward to my bust points, just like I did for the under bust area. Next, I'm just going to roll a straight line along these 3 inches that I measured upward. After this, I'm going to come down to the waistline and mark 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on the other side of the line, like I did for the under bust, and I will connect like so, using a straight line to connect the points. Next, I'm going to take my waist circumference measurements. Remember, I'm working on a quarter measurement, so I'll be dividing my waist circumference by 4. But this time around, I want to snatch the waist, and I'm going to remove 4 inches from my actual waist measurements. So if the waist measurement is 36, I'm going to minus 4 from 36, that gives 32. Then 32 divided by 4, that gives 8. So I'll mark 8 down and add the 2 inches that I used for my underbust. That's for the dart intake there. I'm going to add it down there. So that will be 10 inches. That means by the time I cut away that 2 inches, I'll arrive at 8 inches for the waist. The underbust and the waist circumference are the same, so I'm just marking down what I've marked on the waistline underneath the bust. So after marking down all these points, I just connect with a straight line. Next, I'm going to extend my bust span line to my hip line. Then I'm going to come up from that place by 2 inches, then connect from the waistline downward to meet the 2 inches. Thereafter, I will go to the waistline and measure downward 5 inches. So we have 5 inches here already. The distance between the waistlines and the blouse lines that I have here is 5 inches. Next, I'm just going to connect the blouse length to the waistline of this paper using a diagonal line. Then I'll go to the hip line and I'm going to measure the quarter of the hip circumference measurement. I'll put that down and use a curve ruler to connect this marked area to the waistline. At the waistline there, I'm just trying to blend that part to eliminate the sharp edge there. Then at the bust point, I'll come down by 2 inches. This is for the bust dart, and I'm going to roll a straight line that will meet at the bust point. Next, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches from my bust point. After marking the 1.5 inches, I'm going to come in by 0.5. Then I'll use my curve ruler to connect this way from this point down to my chest line. Thereafter, I'm going to use a curve line to connect from my underbust upward using this curve ruler. Then I'll come to my side here and mark 1.5 inches inward. Then I'm going to use a curve line as well to connect from the underbust upward to meet with the 1.5. See the way this curved ruler is placed. I'm using the fuller part of this ruler, so I'm going to rule this way. Next, I will go ahead and mark 1.5 inches upward from my overbust line. Then I'll come to the side here and mark 1.5 inches downward. I'm going to repeat the process here. I'll mark 1.5 inches. I'll do the same thing here as well, and also here. I'm doing this so that I'll be able to draw the curve that I want to draw. Next, I'm just going to use a free hand to outline my curve line. Next, I'm going to connect from my overbust line to my armhole line, like so. Next, I'm going to fold my dart line like this so that I can redraw the diagonal line. After redrawing the line, I will use my tracing wheel to through this part. Next, I will just go ahead and reconnect all the necessary points. Afterwards, I'm going to use a marker to highlight these areas. After highlighting, I'm going to mark down my seam allowance, which is 1.5 inches. Then I'm going to use my rulers to draw the line. I have just introduced a new paper underneath this one. Then I will use my tracing wheel to trace out this area that I have highlighted. After tracing, I'm going to draw out all the areas that I have traced on this new paper. So if you have watched to this point and you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please hit the subscribe button, like this video, and do share to your friends. You can turn on your notification bell to get instant updates whenever a new tutorial is posted. Next, I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern. I'm going to fold my bust darts this way. After folding this, I'm just going to reconnect the line. Then I'll tape this down to secure it in place. I'm going to blend out the sharp edge underneath the bust. I'm going to fold my over bust line like so to ensure I get a well-rounded over bust, and I'm going to bring the under bust together to ensure as well that I also have a well-rounded under bust. So you can see how rounded this looks. So when you're making yours, you want to be very careful to ensure that the under bust is well curved. Next, I'm going to cut out the traced area of this pattern. After cutting, I will arrange them like this so you see what it looks like. Next, I will be drafting the back part. I'll take my shoulder measurement 7 and I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. From the 1 inch, I extended my line by 7.5 inches for the armhole depth. Then I'm just going to connect like this. Next, I'm going to take my neck measurements. Once I'm done taking my neck measurement, I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect the neckline to my shoulder slope. Next, I'll measure from the tip of this paper to where my armhole depth ends. Then I'm going to mark my value at the center back and connect with a straight line. On that line, I'm going to mark the quarter of my bust circumference measurement and extend the line. Then on my armhole depth line, I'm going to divide that line by 2. I'll mark that midpoint. Then I will go inward by 0.5 inch. Then using my curve ruler, I'm going to connect my bust circumference measurement to the 0.5 inch all the way to my shoulder slope. After drawing my armhole curve, I'm going to mark down the measurements for my horizontal lines. I have the chest line drawn out already, so the next part that I'm going to take is the waistline, then the hip line. I won't mark down the bust point line and the under bust line because I won't be needing that for the back pattern. So after marking this down, I'm going to connect all the points together using my straight ruler. I'm trying to label each line so that you know what each line stands for. Next, I'm going to mark down the quarter of my waist circumference measurement. After marking that down, I will add 1 inch to it. That's for my dart intake. Then I'm going to add 1.5 inches for my seam allowance. After that, I will go to the hip line and I'm going to mark down the quarter measurements of my hip. I will add 1.5 inches for the seam allowance and also add that seam allowance to the bust measurements, that is on the chest line. Next, I'm going to connect all the points together using my straight ruler and my curved ruler as well. After connecting, I will go ahead and blend out the waist area. Next, I'm going to mark down half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is the bust span. I'm going to mark that down, and after marking, I will use my straight ruler to connect the points together. On my waistline here, I'm going to mark 0.5 inch on both sides of this bust span line. Then at the hip line, I'm going to come up by 2 inches. After that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect all the points. Then at the chest line area, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. After coming down by 1 inch, I'm going to use my ruler to connect. At the side, I'll come down by 1.5 inches. I'll go to the neckline and I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches. Then use a free hand to connect the points together. After that, I will use my curve ruler to redraw the line. At the waistline, I'm going to go in by 1 inch. I'm doing this because I'm cutting the down part together with the upper part of this back pattern. The down 1 inch that I have taken, I'm going to add it to the side. Thereafter, I'm going to reconnect the lines. Then I will go to the waistline and draw a half dart there. Then from the 1 inch at the waistline, I'm going to go inward by 1.5 inches. I'll also mark 1.5 inches on the chest line. I actually came up from my hip line to 7 inches. I wanted my loop to end there, but I later changed the measurements so my loop would end at the waistline instead of below the waistline. Next, I'm going to connect this upward to my chest line. So like I said, I'm cutting the down part together with this up pattern. So from the waistline, I will go down to my under boot line. Then I'm going to connect using a straight line. After connecting, I'm going to label this line under boot line. Then from there, I'm going to come in by 1 inch. After that, I'll use my curve ruler to connect upward this way to my hip line. So what I've just done is I have just contoured my boot. I'll also mark 1 inch there at the base and extend this under boot line downward. Then I'll blend this out to eliminate sharp edges. So I minus 1 inch for my quarter hip measurement and use that as my under boot measurement. Next, I'll go to the center back, then come down by 1 inch below the chest line. I'll mark that down, then I will use a slight curve to connect that point to the side area. Remember I said I do not want my loop to extend below the waistline, so I've just cancelled that so my loop will end at the waistline. So I'll go ahead to highlight the areas that I will need for my loop and other areas as well. After highlighting, I'm going to bring in a new paper so that I can trace the yoke. After tracing, I'm going to outline all the traced area. Thereafter, I'm going to cut out the yoke pattern. This is the yoke pattern all cut out. So I would like you to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I really want this video to get to more people, so kindly share this video to your friends. And if you do not want to miss out on interesting tutorials like this, turn your notification bell on. And if you have questions, you can drop them in the comment section. If you have suggestions on what I should do next, I would love to hear from you. Now this is what the back looks like. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.